And once you quit spinning it manually, it keeps spinning until the friction eventually slows it down. So, that's what's got to happen. And not to mention that it does still have some source of energy. And we can see these ultra strong cells rotating into Central Florida now. It looks like into the Space Coast.
Also, it's kind of riding up I-75 practically at this time.
Yeah, east of 75,
and the
actually.
backside of it has, a little east of 75. The back of it really eroded away, which, is giving us some clearing there. Some dry air is getting into it. And I'm really concerned about what this means for surge for people, because now we're going into nighttime, Brian, and people might say, oh, it's starting to calm down. I really don't have to worry about it. But this is when the water is going to rise up, because we're getting that more of a west wind. And by the way, for everyone listening, a west wind means the wind goes from the west to the east. Whatever the wind name is, that's the direction it's coming from. So, Brian, it's a little tricky there if you don't know what technically the wind means.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Stephanie. And now you make a really good point. And this is a danger at the coast, all the way from Marco Island, all the way up even to Tampa Bay, because the water has been so low. And it's so fascinating that it was so low. Well, in Naples, it's come up 4 feet. Now, thankfully, the tide is going down a little bit, but the wind is just now switching around to get that westward push. So it's only just beginning to get the push of the wind having the tide come in just now. And if that's going to move up, in fact, it's probably going to be overnight in the Tampa Bay area when the tide comes in such that it comes in. And, of course, obviously, you can't see anything when you look out in the water. So the combination of the return, which now is at 4 feet.
Right.
And by the way, Steph, at the Caloosahatchee River, the river that goes through Fort Myers, last time we checked just a few minutes ago, It was 4 feet down still. So 4 feet below normal. So that water is going to come in a rush just because it's piled up offshore. It's going to replace, and then it's going to get the push all at the same time. So that's an extremely flood-prone area near the Caloosahatchee, and that is all yet to happen, and it's going to happen in the dark of night because we don't have power in a lot of the city, right?
That's what I thought too. So someone who can talk to this is Chris Bruin, who is just over the water from me in the Tampa Bay area. And Chris, I wrote down our high tides and low tides. Our next high tide is at 4:08 in the morning. Sunrise is at 7:13. So it's going to be happening when it's dark here and also in Tampa. You witnessed that outpush of water. There was a lot of people that were out there. I know Manatee were stuck. I've never seen anything like this. Where exactly are you located?
Hey, Stephanie. Well, first off, I want to answer all your questions, and we are here near the airport. So we're at the Hilton Hotel. It's about a 12-story building. We are protected from the building. I want to answer everyone's question. Well, of course, our safety is just as important. We don't just get out in the middle of it. The whole team behind us here at the Weather Channel is keeping safety priority. So as the winds shift, we are going to get to safe output on the other side of the building as well. But we are here near the airport, and we're about 20 feet or so above the ground. So we're not worried about storm surge, at least at our location. But as you mentioned, I was at Tampa Bay several hours ago, and boy, oh boy, was it a scene. I mean, it was something out of you see out of the movies. I mean, otherworldly, just incredible. There were hundreds of people. Now, most of them were residents nearby from the condos, but everyone was walking out. Now, not advised. Again, don't walk out. But while the weather was quiet, a lot of people were snapping pictures. Even local law enforcement was just amazed. I don't think anyone in their lifetime has ever seen anything like Tampa Bay being drained out. And I mean, it went out several hundred feet, the water. And just yesterday I was there. I mean, it was choppy, it was deep, and the water was splashing up on the promenade there on Bayshore Boulevard. Today, there was pretty much empty and free of water. As you mentioned, there was a manatee that got beached in Tampa Bay, and I didn't see that. But again, several animals getting beached up and down the coast. This is a scene that we saw in Naples at the pier, at Fort Myers Beach at the pier, and again, just insane sights there. Now, winds are really starting to pick up here in Tampa. Just over the past couple of hours, we've been seeing gusts anywhere from 60 to 70 miles per hour. Again, we're in a shelter location, but if you kind of pan off behind me, you can really see the winds whipping in the distance. And again, we're protected, at least for the moment, as they are offshore. They're coming out of the east and east-northeast, blocking us by this building. We actually lost power about an hour ago, and we've been watching the lights kind of flicker on and off in the nearby buildings. So power definitely going out. Several thousand people without power here in Tampa Bay, likely to become much more widespread as those winds proceed. And again, curfew went into effect about an hour and 40 minutes ago here in Tampa, and the Tampa Police Department is taking this seriously. They are going to enforce this strictly. They don't want anybody out on the roads. They don't want anyone out sightseeing, even if there's a calm and breaks in between the banding. They don't want anyone out, because you never know when those gusts are going to get up to 70, 80 miles per hour, which are likely. And Steph, I want to ask you, Bradenton, all your weather, it's coming up this way. We're about 40 miles or so, about 35 miles north of you here in Tampa Bay, and all the weather that you're getting is coming up this way. Now, even though the eye may go to our east, that could mean several more inches of rain and a consistent wind. We may not get gusts as high, but we may be in the 60 to 80 mile per hour range longer than if it were to go right overhead.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, because our weather, we got out here at 5 o'clock. It's been pretty consistent this entire time. The wind coming from the north, northeast, and just a consistent wind, sorry about that, you know, gusting near 60 miles an hour. And I think that's what we'll see, because the hurricane is starting to fall apart. I mean, Chris, I'm not even calling it an eye at this point. I'm just calling it a center of circulation, because it's basically collapsed. And so I do anticipate we head in hours just to see consistent wind that's going to come up towards you guys. And then if that eye wall, or what's left of the eye wall, I should say, that's where you're going to see some of those stronger winds. But, you know, we've been making the point, Chris, that you don't even have to be right near the center of circulation getting gusts on the east coast of Florida that are hurricane strength.
No, I mean, Stephanie, you're exactly right. This is the whole state of Florida storm. I mean, it's been incredible how far-reaching these gusts of over 100 miles per hour have been. You saw the pictures and the footage coming out of Miami, and they weren't even near the center of the storm. So just because you're not getting over the eye, keep in mind now that it's making landfall, that eye will likely become less and less defined and become much larger. So the core of the strongest winds, although they may weaken, which will be likely, especially
hurricane. So there's been these brush bys, but we have not had a major hurricane, and it looks like we will still not have a major hurricane making landfall here in Tampa, and that is a good thing. But we are going to get some of those strong winds. gusted to 99 miles an hour. And Chris, maybe we can talk. We have these thunderstorms that are just racing off the water. Port St. Lucie is on the water. So you get these strong thunderstorms that are going to give you significant gusts. And a 99 mile per hour gust can obviously do some significant damage.
Yes, Stephanie, that's exactly right. I mean, 90 miles per hour. We were at the bay yesterday, and it was about 35 miles per hour, and that was kind of breezy. Palm fronts, that's only at 30. Danger, especially catch you off guard. It may be a kind of a little lull, and then all of a sudden you get these 90 mile per hour winds, which can take over and catch you off guard, and that's what's most dangerous. Especially with a weakening storm, people may want to venture out a little more, and you can't do that. Even with it's still very dangerous.
And Chris, it's an interesting balance. We have these big, gusts out of these thunderstorms on the East Coast of Florida, where we're getting tornadoes, and then where Central Florida, the West Coast, where we're located, it's this consistent shield of rain. Maybe they can put those winds up again. Because, our winds here in Bradenton have been sustained around 40 miles an hour, gusting to about 60 miles an hour. And some people might think it's a lot more than that, but that's what it's been officially. And there have been gusts more. But when you get 40-mile-an-hour winds for hours and hours and hours, it weakens things and it shifts things. And then you get the wind direction to shift around. So there you go. I mean, look at this. Sarasota sustained at 35, gusting to 58. I'm just north of the Sarasota area where Chris is there in Tampa, sustained at 29, gusting to 49. And people might think, oh, it's got to take a lot more to take down trees. No, Chris, when you get this consistently for hours and a little gust here and there, if things are weakened. I was talking to Brian Norcross. I said, you do plan on seeing roof damage with Category 1 type? He said, yeah, you're going to get potentially some roof damage central and northern Florida.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right, Stephanie. The winds, they've been gusting consistently to about 40, 50, 60 miles per hour really over the last 2 hours. So we're really getting a similar pace of weather as to what you're getting, but we all know this is far reaching. It's the East Coast that's dealing with it as well. Now you're from Florida, just as am I, and I kind of want to ask you a question just as a Florida resident. I've been through several hurricanes, Wilma, Charley, and other tropical storms, but I've never seen the eeriness, especially in advance of the storm, that I have in this. I was driving around Tampa earlier yesterday and today, and there is nobody out, and everything on the radio is literally all Irma coverage. There's no music. It really feels otherworldly. And I guess that's a good thing, because people have really heeded the warnings and advisories. It's better to be out of harm's way than to be stuck in it.
Chris, I'll say the difference. I've been at the Weather Channel 14 and a half years. The difference with this storm and growing up in Florida, the difference with this storm, and I feel like all the other storms, is the size, the sheer size and strength of this. I mean, even Andrew, I was a kid in Andrew in West Palm. It went through Homestead, annihilated Homestead. What you could do is you could go down, volunteer, and then go back to your area. This now is encompassing the entire state. We've gone through the southern third of Florida, but we're not going to leave you hanging. Central and northern Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina. We're going to continue to cover this with the onshore push, the flooding, and tropical storm warnings in Atlanta, Georgia.